Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be giving you a quick overview on how to use Bootstrap to help you to quickly build websites. So when it comes to Bootstrap, the main thing that you have to understand is that Bootstrap has classes that you use inside of your HTML. You basically add the Bootstrap class attributes to your HTML code, and Bootstrap already has the CSS code written for that class, right? So basically, most of the web has some very common features in terms of layout and some basic items that you need, in terms of like a navbar, a card, buttons, forms, etc. Like almost every single website that you go to has a lot of those basic components, and there are some very basic styling choices that are pretty much the same across the board. So instead of you having to write your own custom CSS code every single time to make your layout look good in the desktop or laptop view, and also have to write the CSS code to make it look good in the mobile view, Bootstrap has all of that for you already, where basically Bootstrap helps you to quickly build mobile responsive websites. So when you use Bootstrap, you just write the code once, and whatever website that you are working on, anytime that website goes from somebody looking at it on their laptop or something to them looking at it on their phone, the website is going to be responsive, right? Meaning it is going to adjust to the actual screen or device that it's on so that it looks good on both small screens and large screens, right? So Bootstrap is a CSS framework that basically has a bunch of standard styling code already written, and all you need to know is what class to use or what class to add to your HTML so that that CSS code is now applied to the element that has the class name on it. All right, this will kind of make a bit more sense as I'm going, but in terms of getting started, the main thing is we need to go look at the Bootstrap documentation, the official documentation. So if you just open up a new tab and let's search Bootstrap, just simply search Bootstrap. This should take you, the very first search result should be the official Bootstrap website, which is getbootstrap.com. So if you just click on this, build fast, responsive sites with Bootstrap. Like this is a very popular, this is really the most popular framework for this. And almost every tech company that you'll see has some type of CSS framework or a library that uses this same kind of format in terms of having pre-written CSS code assigned for different classes. And as long as you put the right class on the element that you want that styling to be added to, you're good. Right, so once you're here, you need to go read the documentation. So let's go read the docs. And this is where you pretty much learn how to install Bootstrap. So if we scroll, just make sure that you kind of like read over this a bit. But the main information, the main thing that you need here is this code right here. Like this is the main template that you need on every single web page, because this code downloads, you see right here, this code has this link that downloads the Bootstrap CSS. Like all the CSS code that Bootstrap has is minimized, and it is being referenced in this link right here. If you copy this web address and I go paste it, this is going to be a bunch of CSS code that is minified so that the file size is smaller, and all of this is now your actual website, and your actual web page now has access to all of this code. And this looks like gibberish right now, so don't even worry about that. The goal is to just show you that this URL is actually pulling in information into your web page. And you also need the JavaScript. So, anytime that you go to a website and you have like some kind of drop down or slide out, pop-ups, all that kind of interaction going on, that's JavaScript doing that. So you need to have the Bootstrap JavaScript code on the page so that if you happen to use any of those options, it'll work seamlessly for you as well. So make sure that you have this script tag at the very bottom, right before your closing body tag. So pretty much you can just copy this and then delete this H1 because you don't need this. Update this title to whatever your website title name is, and you're good to go. All right. So now I'm like pretty much going to talk to you about two of the main things that you are going to be using when you're building a website. The first thing is pretty much a nav bar. Like almost every single website that you go to and that you see is going to have some type of nav bar on it. And Bootstrap has like a standard template of how to build just a very standard nav bar. So this search box is going to be your friend. Like anything that you're trying to add to your website, always try to look it up in this search box first to see how to do it in Bootstrap, so you can use Bootstrap to build a mobile responsive version of it. All right, so if we're looking for a nav bar, boom, you see nav bar up there and how it works. So this now takes you to the documentation for how to build a responsive navigation header using Bootstrap. And I'm going to show you what it looks like down here. So this is why this documentation is just very helpful, because it has examples that you can copy the code from and then just customize and remove the parts that you don't need. This is a very standard nav bar. And to show you what Bootstrap means by it being mobile responsive, I'm going to change my page to mobile view by clicking on this device toggle. All right, it's on iPhone 12. Cool. So if I scroll back down to where we were, when you see this, this is the nav bar that we were just looking at. This is how it is going to look on an iPhone 12, like on an actual mobile device. And if you click this icon, boom, these are the menu options that we just had. So you see that like that is being created by this code here. So if I go back to the regular laptop view and I come back to this code is what's building this right here. Let me just kind of prove this to you. If I go back to the getting started, and you can kind of follow along with me if you want, and I just copy this getting started template code. I'm going to go to jsbin.com, update this to include Bootstrap. Boom, Bootstrap is here. And then I'm going to go back to this nav bar and I'm going to copy this, and you'll see that this creates, by me just pasting this here, it actually creates that nav bar. You see that? So this is looking like the mobile view because my window is broken down into small frames. Let me see if I can oh, okay, there you go. So just by me pasting this code here, Bootstrap already built me a nav bar. Now imagine how long it would take you to write your own HTML and the CSS to style it and make it look good on both the mobile and desktop view. It would take a minute, you know, so that's why Bootstrap is so powerful, because Bootstrap helped me do this with just a couple clicks. Copy, paste. All right, with just me copying and pasting. So if I go back here. If you're watching this video, that means you're interested in learning to code and making a career switch to becoming a software engineer. And that's exactly what I did. My name is TJ Oyeniyi, and I'm a self-taught software engineer that still works as a software engineer while teaching complete beginners like yourself how to code and help them to get jobs as software engineers by working with them as their mentor. To learn more about working with me as your mentor, check out my coding bootcamp, Roots Technology. I'll put the link in the description below as well. So now, in terms of this nav bar, right? This is your text logo. So if you have a logo on your website, this is the actual area where that will go. And this code here is showing you how to build this in Bootstrap. And this code is just showing you different examples of things that are commonly seen, right? If you want to have a navigation link that's disabled, right? Disabled, you will come in and look at the code for that, disabled. And this is the code for it. And these are the Bootstrap classes that are actually adding this CSS styling, right? You need these classes. And man, I wish I would have left that window. Oh, okay, open. Yeah, it's open. Let me see if I can launch this. All right, so let me just show you what this looks like. So if I open this in the inspect element, and I'll use the browser to basically see all the stuff going on here. So, all right, so you see this class Navbar expand, or here, let me see if I can find a class. All right, here, if I go to Navbar, you see this is the class Navbar, and this is the CSS code that Bootstrap has written for it. Like, this is all the CSS code that Bootstrap already wrote to just make sure that when we use a standard Bootstrap Navbar, that it looks good on mobile and desktop devices. And this is just the code for one class. Look at this class, Navbar expand large, BG body, etc., etc. Like, this is all the CSS code for that. And then if you go here to this div, container fluid, this is all the code for that, right? So by you adding the class to an HTML element, Bootstrap already wrote the CSS code for that class. So you just have to use the Bootstrap documentation to understand what you need and don't need, and to just basically help you to quickly copy and paste and just build a very standard web layout. Because most of the websites that you navigate to, and even the ones that you probably have ideas to build, they all have similar layouts. Like, they all have very similar layouts, and you don't need to be writing a bunch of custom HTML and CSS code to try to build these things out, especially if you want them to look good on the desktop view and the mobile view. All right. So yeah, so here, right, let's say that you want a drop down menu on your navbar. This is the code to build a drop down, and all you have to do is just now update the text and add like your actual link, and you're done. So here, if you want to build a navbar, you would just copy paste this and then delete the parts that you don't need. If you don't need this search box and this search button, right? Like, this is the code for it, right? So this is why it is really important for you to learn HTML and CSS first before trying to jump ahead and learn Bootstrap, because Bootstrap is using attributes, class attributes, to add styling to HTML elements. So if you don't know how to build a basic layout on your own first, or if you don't understand how class attributes work, it's going to be hard for you to understand what's happening with Bootstrap. Okay. So again, this is how this code is showing you how to create all the different aspects of this navbar so that you can delete the parts that you don't need and keep and add more of the parts that you do need, right? Because you see this home button, it looks active, you see, and boom, active. This is the active class, which is different from this link button here, because when you go to link, it doesn't have that class on it, right? So that's showing you the difference between all the different options. So most of the time you are just going to be using this, all right? And in terms of the mobile view, right, you see how it kind of has this button, and this button has this target navbar supported content, and you see that same ID is here. That same ID is here. And you see all this collapse stuff, navbar collapse, right? That should be hinting at, oh, whenever the screen gets smaller, it's going to collapse or just take on a completely different form, which is how we have that overall drop down. All right. So this is one of the most common items that you're going to have when you have a website that you're building. The next thing that we now have to understand is the Bootstrap grid. This is how you create all your different layouts. All right, the Bootstrap grid. So over here in layout, we have grid. So click that, and I'm actually going to start at a different website. So open up a different tab and type in Google search Bootstrap grid system. Yeah, I think that this would be a bit easier to understand first, and then we can go back to that. So click on this W3 schools link here. All right, so Bootstrap uses a grid system that is 12 columns wide, and this gives you the flexibility you need to pretty much try to create almost any type of layout that you have, right? So, but the thing is that everything has to add up to 12, right? So you see how here, this is a column, and it spans the whole row, it spans everything wide. It's 12 columns wide. But this one here, right, is 6 wide, and this is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. 4 plus 8 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12, right? So this is showing you some of the different ways that you can use the Bootstrap column, or that you can use the Bootstrap grid system to create your different layouts. And this is kind of what that would look like, right? And if we go back to the Bootstrap documentation, we see the same thing here, right? Like we basically have this column and we have 3 of them. So I'm sure you now know these are 4 wide each, right? Because we have 4 of them and everything has to add up to 12. So that's 4 times 3 is 12, or 12 divided 4 is 3. This is the most math that you will have to do when it comes to coding. All right. If you can count from 1 to 12, you're good, right? That's it. And this is the code that creates this layout. You see, when we first have a div with the class container on it. I mean, I'm sure you can guess what this class is doing, text center. This is what is centering that text. Like if we take this off, the text probably wouldn't be centered. I think the default is left aligned, all right? So basically, you know, in terms of understanding how to set up the Bootstrap grid, you use this code and the first thing you have is a container div. And then anytime your layout has stuff side by side, you need a row. When it has more than 1 column, you need a row. You get what I'm saying? You need a row, right? So you see now the next thing is to have a row. And we need a row because we have 3 columns here side by side. So if you kind of think of when you go shopping, Target or Walmart or something, right? Like when you go down the aisles, everything is on a shelf, right? A shelf is a row and the stuff is side by side, all right? And you have multiple rows on top of each other. But this is just a very standard layout where we have 1 row and inside of it, we have a div with the class call for column, right? Because our content is broken down into columns. So now that we have this is where inside of our column, this is where we will now put our actual content, right? This is where we'll now put our actual content. And I'm going to walk through project 2 with you in terms of you building project 1 using Bootstrap, which is the assignment for project 2. But just like, this is the main concept here. Like all of the boxes, you know, when you're building your layout, you have to group things into boxes, right? And that's basically what's happening here. Like when we have a box and inside of that box is where we put our content, all right? And if you go back to the Bootstrap grid system website on W3 Schools, there's a section, if you scroll down, called grid system rules, right? If you scroll down, this section is called grid system rules, and this will kind of explain it a bit more, right? So rows must be placed inside of a container class or a container fluid. The difference between these two is the container fluid takes up the full width. If you have a row, it has to be inside of a container element, all right? And you use rows to create horizontal groups of columns, plural, right? When you have more than 1 column, you need a row. If I go up here, you see here, this one spans 12. When we have a column that just takes up the full width, we don't need a row. So you would just have a container and really you would just have your content. Like you don't even need a row. You don't even need a column because what? Columns go inside of rows. And sorry, I just realized that I didn't read that rule yet. Content should be placed within columns. All right. So you see, whatever element has the column class inside of this div is where you put your content, right? Like if I go back to here, whatever element has the column class, like inside of there is where you put your content, right? So going back to the grid system rules, content should be placed within columns, and only columns may be the immediate children of rows. So when you have a row, the only element that can be in it has to have a column class. The only element in it has to have a column class. And all of these classes will help you to quickly make a grid layout, you know, like just the container, row, and the column. So you see how here it says column -sm 4? Well, one, like this 4 here basically refers to how wide we want that column to be. But what does the SM refer to? The SM here refers to the actual size or to the actual device that we are specifying that layout for, right? So you see SM is for tablets, XS for extra small is for phones, MD, which is a medium width, is for small laptops, but LG can be used for laptops and desktops. Right, so basically, if we want a certain column to be a certain width on laptops, right, we know that we need this. We need column -LG, and then hyphen, and then we now have to specify how many columns we wanted to take up. All of these options, you have access to the full 12 columns. Right, so if we wanted to take up 8 columns wide, we will put column hyphen LG hyphen 8. And remember, everything has to add up to 12, right? So that means we need another column that either is column hyphen LG hyphen 4, or you add up to, or you have, I don't know, or you 2 columns that are 2 columns wide, column hyphen LG2. You get what I'm saying? So this structure here with the hyphen, you basically say column, and you kind of think about what type of device you are building for, whether it's a phone, laptop, whatever, tablet, whatever, and then you think of how wide, and then you specify how wide you want that column to be for that device type. That's why you have this here, right? To let you know that you still have these options. Okay, so this is very important, you know, to just kind of give you like a visual that you have 12 columns to play with in terms of creating your layout. And honestly, if you look at this looks like the majority of layouts that you're going to see on the internet. Like, this is what a lot of websites look like in terms of the way that they do their layouts. All right, so, and you are always going to have this structure. You're going to have a container. And if you have more than one column, remember, if you have multiple columns, that's when you need a row. If you only have one column, right, if your content is not broken down into multiple columns, then all you need is a container, and then you can just write the code for that content. You don't need a class. I mean, you don't need a row or column. You just put your content. All right, so that's very important. Yeah, so basically make sure that you kind of understand all these basic, like, it's called breakpoints. You know, the extra small, the SM, the MD, these are the different breakpoints which kind of reference the different devices that you can specify a Bootstrap layout for. All right, and you can read more about that here as well. So just read these, how it works, and then, you know, kind of read like the breakpoints on here. So this will kind of walk you through like the same thing. All right. So up next, something that you'll commonly see is, let's say that you have an image and you want to take that image and change the shape into like a circle. Oh, kind of like my video here. So you see how this video is in this circle shape? If you want to do that, you have to manipulate the border of that element. Because remember, you know, CSS, the box model that basically says that every element is a box that has padding, a border, and margin. So if you want to change the shape, you're changing the border. So if you go to the search box, just go to the search box and I'll type in border. This shows you different like things that you can do in terms of adding like borders, etc., remove borders, color, right? Like this shows you how to add colors to your borders. But if you keep going down, you'll see how you can change the shape, right? So if you have an image and you want that image to have a round shape, you will add this class, rounded circle. You see, like Bootstrap makes all of this very easy for you so that you don't have to write a bunch of code to now try to turn an image to be like a round image. All right, you would just literally add this class and you're done. If you're learning a lot in this video, keep in mind, this is what learning to code with me as your mentor is like. Anytime you get stuck and you need help, you can schedule a Zoom call with me where we work one-on-one together on an issue like this, or you can just email me and I'll get back to you that way. But having a mentor there to guide you and ask questions to is the best way to speed up your coding journey so that you're not wasting time being stuck or working on things that don't matter. So if you're ready to start your coding journey and become a software engineer, come join me in my coding bootcamp at www.rootstechnology.info. Something else that you might want to play around with is icons, right? So let's look up icons here to see what Bootstrap has. Yep, Bootstrap Icons. So Bootstrap has its own icons. Learn more about Bootstrap Icons, including how to install them and recommended usage. So if I click learn more, and you see here, one of the options is install. So mind you, these are all the different icons, right? Like, let me see if they have like a email, right? Like a email icon, email. Yeah, boom, mail, you see, envelope. Like, let me see if they have a search. Yeah, right. And this is like the actual code for it. This is the code for it. This I tag, and you would add this class. That's it. Right? So you understanding Bootstrap makes it real easy for you to just quickly search up what you're looking for, an icon, a button, or whatever, and see how to do it in Bootstrap, and just copy paste the code and then update any text that you need to. So let me show you how to install the icons though. This is something you have to install. So if we go back to the Bootstrap Icons page, and you see over here, currently you have an option for install. This gives you the different options in terms of different ways that you can actually install it. If you followed the getting started and you added that code into your HTML file, this is the link that you would add to now get the Bootstrap icons working, right? So you basically copy this link and go to your header page, and you would add it underneath the link for the actual Bootstrap style sheet. And that's it. So now you have access to those icons. And that's it here. Let me see if I can get an icon working. Yeah, search. So let me copy this, and let me go back here, and let's see if I can add a icon. That's under, where am I here? Okay, outside of my nav. Let me see if I can add them. Boom. That's it. You see my icon? All right, what next? Cards. Yeah, so this is another important or very common type of layout that you're gonna see online. Cards. So let's go back to the Bootstrap docs, and then in this search we'll just put in card, and then go to the about. This structure is very common, where you basically have an image that has some type of title, and then some like text underneath it, and then boom, a button. When it comes to web dev, this is called a card, right? Like this is a card, this kind of structure with this image, the title, the text, and the button. And this is the code for it. You would just basically copy this code, and then you would update this text. You probably don't need this style here in terms of you adjusting like the width, because this card, right? If you have your content broken down into columns, then this card would be inside of the column. This is actually what's in project 1. Yeah, so for the project 1 portion at the bottom of the page, when you have cards, you basically have 4 of these side by side. But because they are side by side, remember, right? That means the content is broken down into multiple columns, right? And those columns, you have 4 of them. They in terms of the width, right? Because you set the width of the actual column. So if you have 4 of them and they need to add up to 12, that means that each column is 3 wide, because 4 times 3 is 12. Okay. So yeah, this is a very common layout that you see online. Like it's called a card. Let's see something else, buttons, right? So if you want to add a button somewhere, you can just look up button. I think it's down here. And this will take us to the code for creating different buttons with different colors. You see, this is the code for it. And these are all of the different options that you have, just always make sure to always use this Bootstrap search box before you start writing your own custom code. Just see if Bootstrap has something there to help you, quickly do it. That way you can pretty much guarantee that whatever website you're building is going to look good in the desktop view and the mobile view. Okay. Like here, if you're trying to, do a large button, the class you would put is button LG, right? Like that's it. You just simply add that class. I mean, you see, these are all the different components. There we go. I've been searching for that word all day. Like when it comes to building websites, most of the websites you're going to be interacting with have a lot of similar components. All right. And Bootstrap has very standard styling for a lot of those components, right? Modals. This uses JavaScript, right? But this is how you would write the code to build a modal. Tooltips, right? You know how you click on something and it basically has that pop up? That's called a tooltip. This is the code for it. So just check out all these different components here. If you don't see something that you're looking for, just make sure that you use this search. Forms too, right? Like forms. Like Bootstrap has some very standard, it has some very standard styling to make sure your forms look good on different layouts. This is it, and this documentation walks you through a bunch of the different options that you have in terms of just changes that you might want to make. Let me see, select button, this drop down, right? Like this is the code for adding that to your form, so just definitely like make sure that you check this out. Like Bootstrap is a very powerful thing, and if you can understand the main concepts in this video, especially in terms of just using the Bootstrap like documentation to help you to quickly build layouts, or and understanding the grid system, and like that's really one of the most important thing, right? Understanding the Bootstrap grid, because that's how you create your different layout. And once you understand how that works in terms of, oh, well, I just need to know what class to add to the HTML element, or I can just copy and paste from Bootstrap, that'll make it super fast for you to build websites. But you'll get to the point where you won't even really be building websites, because there are a bunch of Bootstrap templates for websites that are already built. And since you know how Bootstrap works, you would just download the free template and customize it. Like here, if you open up a new tab and this website called Bootstrap Made, M-A-D-E, right? So let's just look that up. Boom, Bootstrap Made, free website templates. So let me go to the actual website so I don't lose you. Top quality Bootstrap templates. So do you see all these different options? Like I'm sure you've seen somebody's portfolio site that looks like this online. Like those are all templates. People are not building those by hand, by scratch. They're just downloading a template. They're adding their own picture, changing the name from Alex Smith to whatever. All right. Like you can quickly build websites just using a template. Here, if I click this, Yummy Bootstrap, and I click this live demo, like this is a fully built website. And you see that? I'm sure you've been to a website that has a similar layout to this, right? You see all this stuff? And if you want to build a website that looks similar to this, you can literally download this for free and then customize, add your own images, update the text, all of that, and boom, you have a website. So like this is how a bunch of people that like start building websites for other people, like this is how a lot of people do it. They use templates, but you won't know or feel comfortable using a template if you don't understand Bootstrap basics. So that's why it's really important that you make sure you understand the grid system and that you understand just the concept that Bootstrap already wrote the CSS code, and that CSS code is defined on a class. And as long as you have the right classes and the right structure in terms of the HTML, your website is going to look good on desktop, mobile, all devices. All right. So that's it. So hopefully this video was very helpful for you. I'm going to create a video actually walking you through how to build a Bootstrap website in the next video. Okay. So stay tuned. Comment below and just let me know if you have any questions on this. Email me any questions that you have. Let me tell you how learning to code changed my life. I went from making $37,000 a year and living paycheck to paycheck to my first job as a software engineer paid me $75,000 a year. That's almost double what I was making before. So now I don't have to fly Spirit Airlines all the time anymore, and I can actually afford a real vacation. And since I change jobs every 1 to 2 years, I started making 6 figures my 3rd year as a software engineer. That's what this career change can do for you. Now I have the skills to learn anything technical and get a job in a lot of different roles and industries because of my technical skills. So don't waste time putting off learning to code if you know you're interested in making a career change. Get started now so you can be ready to start applying to jobs soon. Come learn to code with me as your mentor at rootstechnology.info.